Hello guys and welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. Today is the 10th of December and the voice box is finally getting back in shape. Only took a few weeks, but hey, we're back in the game. We're back in the game for now. And today we've got another video. We're going to do a unit comparison between the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers and the Zoanthropes. I quite like both of these units. This is quite an interesting one. A lot of firepower coming from both of these units. And as of the time of recording this, I've actually got the points cost, because today actually filming this is actually the 6th, even though it is the 10th today. Smoke and mirrors. Anyway, I've got the points. So let's get into those points. In fact, what we're talking about in terms of points, we're going to be taking two Lokhust Heavy Destroyers because they're 50 points per model for 100 points, and the Zoanthropes are 110 points for 3. So 2 Lokhust Heavy Destroyers versus 3 Zoanthropes, or 2 Zoanthropes and a Neurothrope, whatever. And that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Let's get into the statistics to begin. For the Lokhust Destroyers, they've actually gained an inch of movement. They're now moving 8 inches, toughness 6, 3 plus armor, 4 wounds, 7 plus leadership, and object control is 2. Whereas the Zoanthropes, only 5-inch movement, so they are slower. Only toughness 5, so they're not as tough. Only a 5 plus armor, but they do have a 4 plus invulnerable save, but not quite a 3 plus armor, I suppose. Only 3 wounds apiece, leadership 7 and OC 1. Now pre-codex, when I was sort of scoring this without actually having any of the leaks and the codex stuff, I was going to score this to the Zoanthropes because of that invulnerable save. I think it's key. I still think I might, even though they're slower, they're not as tough. 1 less wound, 1 less OC. As soon as you start putting any AP onto the weapons, and you likely will against a Lokhust Heavy Destroyer, it then goes to -4, -5, and so on. I think I'm going to still give it to the Zoanthropes, even though I probably should go with the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers for the majority of the stats being better. But we'll score it for the Zoanthropes. Ability-wise, the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers, Reanimation Protocols, we all know about that. It's won the Necrons in quite a lot of these videos that we've done so far in this countdown. Huge ability, Army Roll. And optimised for slaughter. Now, on the image here, I've actually got the old index version because I haven't yet got the new codex, but I can talk it through. Each time a model with the exterminator weapon makes a wound roll of a 1 against non-monsters and non-vehicles. So that's what it doesn't say on the screen, but I've got it for you, don't worry. So basically, infantry, swarm, beast, mounted, anything other than monsters and vehicles, you get to reroll your wound rolls of a 1. Now, if you're using the Cause Destructor weapon, it's the opposite. You get to reroll wound rolls of 1 against monsters and vehicles only. They're kind of optimizing what they're doing against their target. The big weapon, of course, is against monsters and vehicles, and the anti-infantry / whatever weapon is against those targets. So it works. Ideally, what they should have just done is let us just reroll wound rolls of a 1, because, yeah, maybe the Exterminator gets a bit too strong on the bigger stuff. I don't know. That's the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers. As for the Zoanthropes, you got the Shadow in the Warp. Shadow in the Warp is just triggering off that battle shock for all enemy units. That can be really handy if you've got the right combinations with -1 to battle shock tests and things like that. Then they've got Spirit Leech, which is an aura while an enemy unit is within 6 inches. And if this unit still contains its Neurothrope, which it should be the last model to go realistically, each time that enemy model fails a battle shock test, kind of relates to Shadow in the Warp, it suffers D3 mortal wounds, and one model in this unit regains D3 lost wounds. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to bring a model back, but if there's a model on 1 wound, or a model on 2 wounds, you could be potentially bringing it back to full wounds there. Then it's got Warp Field, which is another aura and another psychic ability. While a friendly Tyranids unit is within 6, models in this unit have a 6 plus invulnerable save. So you're dishing out invulnerable saves mainly to your little bugs, termagants, hormagaunts, gargoyles, but I think I've got to hand this one to the Necron side here because it's very optimal and you're re-rolling at the right target, whereas failing battle shock isn't always a thing, and then the invuln save, it can be good, but you can do like venom throats for cover saves, and there's the psychophage, there's other things you can do. So that one's going to the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers. Let's get on to the actual maths part of this video. We're going to start off with the Necrons, an mythic exterminator weapon. So this has got the heavy keyword, you've got rapid fire 6, you've got sustain hits 1, 36-inch range, 6 shots per model. So for a 2-man unit that would be 12 shots or 24 at rapid fire range. Any hit rolls of a 6 will inflict another additional hit. Heavy means you can hit on 2s rather than 3s if you don't move. Strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. Now this weapon is absolutely nasty against all kinds of targets. Now the Ghost Destructor is also heavy, so it's a +1 to hit if you don't move. But this one is lethal. I don't think you need the lethal, to be honest, because it's strength 14. It's got high strength, but you get 1 shot per model, so it's only 2 shots here. Hitting on 3s or 2s with heavy, strength 14, minus 4 AP, and the damage is just a flat 6. The damage, once it gets through, it is really nasty. The Zoanthropes, however, they've got a cool range weapon. Warp Blast, and you've got 2 variants of it. You've got the Witchfire, which is Blast. It's got the Blast ability, so if you're going up against Hordes or anything 5 or more, I suppose, you get extra attacks. Only 24-inch range, so you've got to be a little bit closer. D3 attacks with Blast. Hitting on 3s, strength 7, minus 2 AP, D3 damage. So it's a nice little anti-infantry, like Space Marine kind of killer. But it can also work on large units, hordes of 20 maybe. 20 Necron warriors perhaps. You'll be getting D3 plus 4 attacks. So that's an average of 6 per Zoanthrope. So that would be 18 attacks if you've got a 3-man unit there. Now the other option is the Focus Witchfire. So this isn't an option. You get both of these and you can change it up to battle round because this is just the same weapon profile. You just select one of them. Whereas with the Destroyers, they're completely different kits. As lethal hits, 24-inch range again. Only 1 shot per model, so you're going to get 3 shots for this 3-man unit. Hitting on 3s, strength 12, minus 3 AP, D6 plus 1 damage. The lethal hits will come in handy, but with only 3 shots, you've got half a chance of getting 1. But 12 damage, strength 12 is quite rare in this Tyranids Codex. There's not much strength that goes beyond 9. It's quite rare. You look at the Tyranids, and that's sort of about it. Now I said I was going to do maths. I'm going to do maths in a moment, in fact, because we're going to actually just purely judge the weapons here. What weapon do I prefer out of these? I mean, you've got 2 options with the Lokhust Destroyers. 1 option that is 2 profiles with the Zoanthropes. Again, I've got to go with the Zoanthropes here. They're very versatile. You can change your, battle round, you can change your target. 1 minute you're going anti-infantry, the next minute you're going anti-vehicle, then you're going back to hordes. Whereas with the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers, if you choose the big weapon, the Ghost Destructor, you've got that all game. You can't just start firing that at a gaunt. It's not going to do anything with 1 shot at strength 14. It's a waste. Damage 6 on 1 Hormone. It's not worth it. So the flexibility of the Zoanthropes wins that point for me. Right, let's get on to these maths then. So I've already got it on the screen, in fact, for the Zoanthropes anyway. With the Zoanthropes, if you're going up against 10 Guardsmen, you're looking at killing around 6 to 7 of them. Against 5 Space Marines, you're looking at 2 of them. 5 Terminators, only 1 of them. A toughness 10 monster or vehicle, 6 damage. Toughness 12, 4 to 5 damage, and toughness 14, 3 damage. Now, I've optimised the weapons as I see fit. So obviously Guardsmen, I'll be using the Warp Blast, Witchfire, and by the time you get to the monsters and vehicles, you're using the Focus Witchfire, of course. Now, on the other hand, with the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers, I've got to split this up with the mass because you can't just swap in and out of battle rounds. So let's go with the Emetic Exterminator first. Against 10 Guardsmen, they are ripping through them. 19, maybe even 20. Obviously, there's only 10, but 19 to 20 of them, they're gone. They're literally gone. Space Marines, 4 to 5, so you may in fact wipe the unit. Terminators, it's 1. Toughness 10, monsters and vehicles, 6 damage. Toughness 12, 3 damage. Toughness 14, 3 damage. So you can see here with this anti-infantry weapon, it wins against Guardsmen at a toughness 3, it wins against Space Marines at a toughness 4, and against Terminators at a toughness 5, it's level pairing, it's on par. At least it's got a little bit of flexibility to actually do that. It's not far behind what the Zoanthropes are actually doing here. Now when you flip it and you put the Ghost Destructors out, 1 to 2 Guardsmen, not worth it. 1 to 2 Space Marines, not worth it. Less than 1 model in terms of Terminators, but it's not killing a Terminator basically, on average. Now when you get to toughness 10 monster and vehicle, you're doing between 6 and 12. Toughness 12, 6 and 12, and toughness 14, you're doing 6. So it completely flip reverses here. Once you start going against the monsters and vehicles at toughness 10 or more, the Destructors are the better option, even better than the Zoanthropes focused Witchfire. So it's fairly obvious that the Exterminator is better against infantry, the Destructor is better against monsters and vehicles. The difference is you've only got 1 of them for the entire game and you can't swap it out. The Zoanthropes have that profile which they can keep swapping out over and over in every single battle round. So I've got to give it to the Zoanthropes again. I've got to. I don't want to, but I've got to. They're just versatile. They've got to take that. I mean, when you're talking about things like the benefits of cover, that will come into play. But there's AP in all these weapons here, so it's kind of level again, really, isn't it? As for some synergy with detachments, the Synaptic Nexus, it doesn't really work for Zoanthropes. You don't need the 5+ invulnerable save because they've got 4+. They don't need a +1 to their charge, and they don't need to reroll melee attacks. There is a stratagem within this detachment called the Smothering Shadow. Just after an enemy unit fails Battle Shock, in any phase, one Synapse unit within 12 inches, you get to roll 6 dice, and any 3+ rolls, enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. Now, why I'm mentioning this is because Zoanthropes have Synapse naturally with their keywords, so they could do this for 1 CP. Not bad. Sticking with that detachment, Irresistible Will. In the shooting phase, or fight phase, but it'll be in the shooting phase here. Again, a Synapse unit that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, each friendly Tyranid model that makes an attack against that enemy unit, if the attacking model's unit is within 6 inches of the Synapse unit, so 6 inches of the Zoanthropes, they get to reroll their hit rolls and win rolls over 1. Now, they can just do it on themselves. The Zoanthropes can just do it on themselves, get to reroll hit rolls and win rolls over 1. That's quite a lot of rerolls for only 1 CP. I like that. Overriding Instincts is another one. I know I'm going to town with Synaptic Nexus, but it is the Synapse detachment, isn't it? In the movement phase, if you've fallen back, you're still eligible to shoot. I think that's huge because they don't really fight that well. Other options, you've got the Invasion Fleet with the Swarming Instincts for sustained hits 1 against infantry. If they were firing at each other, if they were firing at the Locust Heavy Destroyers, you get sustained hits 1. That's nice. Or you can gain precision maybe if there's a Locust Lord in the unit. There's also Rapid Regeneration to get the 5+ Fear and Pain save because they've got Synapse. The Assimilation Swarm to be healing their own models in the unit. Will of the Hive Mind from the Hive Tyrant to be able to have the Assault keyword if they're within 6, so they can advance and still fire. And they can use a stratagem that's a battle tactic stratagem for free if they're within 12 inches of him. Exocrine for symbiotic targeting, so they can reroll the hit rolls over 1 if the Exocrine shot first at that unit. And then you got all the battle shock kind of stuff, because we've had that Spirit Leech ability. I'll remind you again what it is. If a unit fails Battle Shock, they're going to suffer D3 mortal wounds, and you're going to regain D3 mortal wounds. Now, there's ways of making Battle Shock harder. You've got, for example, the Neurotyrant with the Psychic Terror. When you unleash Shadow in the Warp, it's a -1 to the Battle Shock tests. Nice. You've got the Neurolictor. In the command phase, select one enemy unit within 12 inches, they must take a Battle Shock test. And the Neurolictor's got all of its own abilities as well, like a +1 to wound if they're Battle Shocked, and all sorts. And the Death Leaper also has an ability within 6 inches to worsen the leadership by 1, and if they're below starting strength in the opponent's command phase, they've got to take a Battle Shock test. So loads of way to force Battle Shock, loads of way to get them to force it, get them to fail it. That's enough for the Tyranids, and let's get into the Necrons. So the Necron Locust Heavy Destroyers, they can have a Locust Lord. The Locust Lord gives them 5+ critical hit rolls. Not so useful against the Ghost Destructors, because they got... I mean, it would make lethal hits on a 5+, but they're strength 14. You don't always need it unless you're going against the big stuff. But the Exterminators, 5+ critical hit rolls with sustained hits 1. When you normally got a 3-man unit and they're in rapid fire range, that's 36 shots with 5-ups giving critical hits and sustained hits. It gets really nasty. They start eliminating anything. Reanimation protocols, of course, we did mention earlier. A Technomancer in a nearby unit within 3 can heal D3 lost wounds in the movement phase. And then I've got lack of images here because the codex isn't in my hand, but you've got the Awakened Dynasty with the Phasal Subjugator for a +1 to hit as an enhancement for a character nearby. Although they do have heavy, but if they want to move, they can still have the +1 to hit. Protocol of Conquering Tyrant to reroll hit rolls over 1. Vengeful Stars, if you've got a Locust Lord in the unit for 2 CP, if you remove an enemy unit nearby, this unit can fire as if it was our shooting phase, because of that character. The Hypercrit Legion, that's the one where you can hyperphase in and out of the board. I think that'd be really good for a unit like this, especially rapid fire. But there's also the Arisen Tyrant, which you can put on your Locust Lord for rerolls of hit rolls over 1 again. You got the Fire Overwatch stratagem from the core rules. I think that could be very useful on the Exterminator weapon, not so much the Ghost Destructor. 3 shots max with a max unit of 3, not great. Targeting Melee from the Cryotic Stalker to remove the benefits of cover. But yeah, that's all the synergy, or that's most of the synergy. There's probably a few little bits and bobs, but overall, I love both of these units. I said it in the intro, I love both of these units. The Zoanthropes have got the synergy, they've got the durability, they've got the better weapon profile. I mean, you can't ignore the Locust Heavy Destroyers. If they get the right target, it's doing work. They're doing work. And the big gun is obviously superior. It's got damage 6. But Zoanthropes having that flexibility in-game, changing your weapons out. So for that reason, and for all the other reasons I've given you in this video, I've got to give this one to the Zoanthropes. So guys, that has been the 10th of December. I will see you tomorrow on the 11th. See you then.